All right. Welcome to another edition of Dan and Jack Talk Congressional Districts. This one we got the California 49th Congressional District. Surprised they have that many districts, but they do. We got Mike Levin, not to be confused with Mark Levin, and Brian Maryott. Mike Levin, not to be confused with a Republican. He is, in fact, a Democrat. And
Yes.
Brian Maryott is the Republican for that race. But Jack, you want to tell us a little bit about the district?
Yeah, hopefully that's not a problem though. Republican voters thinking it is.
Oh yeah, that would be a disaster.
But anyways, this is another Southern California district that has water problems, and we'll see that with a lot of the Southern California districts. This district is interesting. There's a big Marine Corps training base in it, Camp Pendleton. And it's kind of inhibiting the development of this district. It is just south of the Orange-San Diego County line, however. Um, it for a while it was hard to categorize and populate this district, which is just north of San Diego, because it's not fertile enough land for farming. There's not too much manufacturing, and it's not a retirement community. However, in recent years, it's bloomed because if anyone's familiar with Southern California, it's a beautiful area. And it's very comfortable to live there, especially the San Diego area. And so
Oh, it
many,
really is. I spent like
yeah,
a month there doing some work, petition work for the Chargers in 2012, and like it's 72 degrees all day every day. It's fantastic down there.
yeah, it's a
Um,
great area. And many Americans agree with us, and they have gone to settle there. This district does include Carlsbad, Oceanside. I don't quite know how to pronounce this town, but it's Encinitas, maybe.
Encinitas,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then with, of course, there's a small little town called San Diego where three-fourths of the voters live. Um, but I mean, it's a great district. I would want to live here if I if
Yeah,
I
I,
could.
I got to
Yeah.
spend a month in we stayed in, I think it was Carlsbad near Oceanside, and it's gorgeous there. I mean, the you could stay, I mean, this was almost 10 years ago, but hotel was like $70 a night. It was two-room hotel room. I mean, it was great. I mean, it's a beautiful district. The people are very nice. A lot of transplants from Illinois, surprisingly, there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you'll see that in Arizona too. This
and
area and then Arizona, you'll see so many people, and you'll just bump into them and be like, "Yo, where are you from?" Chicago.
yeah, oh yeah, Naperville, yeah,
Yeah.
totally, yeah. I mean, I'll also note for the district that San Diego County and the city is one of two major urban areas in the country that is Republican run.
Yes.
So San Diego and Indianapolis are two Republican run towns in the country, and they've 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 got a good strong organization there. And I mean, obviously they took some hits during the Trump midterms, but as we'll see, as we go through our Dem candidate, Mr. Levin, um, he likes to claim that the culture of San Diego is for green stuff, and I think the voters might beg to differ on that. I don't know, but I guess let's get into the candidates here.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk a little bit about Levin.
Yeah,
Um,
you did a ton of research. Ton of
yeah,
research on him.
yeah. I mean, he's a talker, so I mean, there's a lot you can find. Um, he's a Dem incumbent, obviously. He won the seat in 2018. He moved into the district, interestingly, from New York City after seeing how narrowly the incumbent had won on election night 2016. He was actually at Hillary's Cry Fest, and that was it the Javits Center in 2016 when she lost to Trump.
Yeah, I
So,
can't remember where it was at, but
so he,
that
so
was a
oh, it was a great night. Yeah,
yeah.
but Levin was in the house, crying on her shoulder, probably crying on Chelsea's shoulder because he's been
Yeah.
a college friend of Chelsea. He's no stranger to politics. He's been active in campaigns for decades, starting while driving a congressperson around the DNC. Um, he's got some like legit political like hands on the ground experience. Like he's kind of, I'd say he's an operator a little bit to the sense that, but he doesn't really advertise it that much. He was executive director of the Orange County Democrats, which basically means he wasn't the chairman of the group, but he ran everything. Um, so that's a really important role, and probably in the era when he was running everything, they were losing a lot, which we might laugh about. But anybody that's run campaigns will kind of recognize that you really do learn more from the losses than from the wins, just like anything in life. Um, so, I mean, he might have gotten quite good during that time. Uh, we don't know. We'll
Yeah,
find out.
that's completely true though. You definitely learn. I mean, you'll see a lot of candidates get discouraged after they lose. Well, a lot of their wallets get discouraged too, which makes
Yeah.
sense. But I mean, losing definitely helps you learn. That's 100% true.
Oh yeah. I mean, people don't learn from their victories. And a good political line I learned: if you find out who your friends are or who shows up to your election night party when you lose. Somebody told me that, and it's very true because
Yeah.
if you're at an election night party somewhere and the candidate wins, you'll notice the crowd swell. And Joe, I was with you from the beginning. Oh yeah, I was here with you the whole way. And people just come out of the woodwork. Oh yeah, we're there for you. No, when you're down and out, that's who you know who your friends really are. And
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess back to Levin from that sidebar. He's kind of boring in demeanor, I would say, albeit knowledgeable, pretty well spoken. I mean, which makes sense. He's a lawyer. He's a hard left environmentalist, though. It's really becoming a religion with these candidates. We'll see it even in the next one that we're going to cover, Sean Casten. It reminds me of the Rush Limbaugh quote that abortion is the sacrament of the left. Well, if abortion is a sacrament, I'll paraphrase Rush a little bit. Then environmentalism is their new religion. Um, Levin is an environmental lawyer. He's been involved in green startups, which again we've seen with some of these other candidates. It seems to be a trend. He claims over 250,000 small dollar donors. I would, judging by his demeanor, though, I would say that's more of his race achieving national status and Dems having structural advantages in having Act Blue and with small dollar donors. So I wouldn't attribute that so much to that. But in terms of the issues, he attributes inflation to Putin, pandemic, and price gouging. Like, okay, bro. Um, he's in,
That's
yeah,
another line that they just love to throw out there.
yeah. They do love the alliteration, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Um, uh, the party ID in the new district is even, which is interesting. So even though it's a independent redistricting commission that the Democrats probably run in California, um, Democrats are again at a structural disadvantage though because they are losing a seat. So they have to still jam more voters or fewer voters or fewer Dem districts into the same geographic area. So that might bode well for some of these on the bubble seats in California. He's a trust the science kind of guy. I mean, which unsurprising. We talked about the environmentalism as a religion. Doesn't understand economic incentives at all. Unsurprisingly, he tries to classify himself as more of a moderate, but even so, he admits he's progressive on environmental issues. His voting record: 100% with Biden, 100% as an economic liberal, 100% social liberal. Got a 100% pro-abortion rating. Um, let's see. I'd say he's definitely a student of politics. Describes himself as a political organizer, which seems probably pretty true. He did campaigns while he was in law school. I mean, I can relate to him in that. I was probably paying a little less attention to law school and way more to the campaigns I was in. So uh, I get that. He seems sincere about the service over self thing. He said he learned at school with the Jesuits. Um, there was an interesting admission he made though in an interview he did with these law school or some pre-law group that he did. He was talking about how they would, when he traveled to DC, they would do one small vote on a small issue that the day that they would travel there. Um, Having worked for a legislature in the past, that's basically just a per diem capture scheme by Congress for its members. Because if they vote on the day that they're traveling, they get an extra, I don't know how many dollars. Maybe it's in Springfield, it's like $140 or something. So it's a way to put more money in the pockets of their members that he kind of admitted without trying to admit. So I enjoyed hearing that.
Yeah.
He's against offshore drilling near California. Again, not surprising. He is kind of smart in how he tries to cater to veterans in the district. Both to getting bills signed by both Trump and Biden, pushes the whole bipartisanship thing, even though he really isn't. He kind of likes spiking the football on the enviro nonsense. He sent a beginner's guide to climate change to a fellow Republican rep, Daryl Issa, or I should just say fellow rep. He's a Democrat. Issa's a Republican. And a point that I hope Brian Maryott hits him on, especially with the way things are going now. He opposed a new power plant north of San Diego, which should hurt him considering the blackouts and power rationing that they're experiencing right now. He argued that the power plant was since it was combustion powered, it was against the values of the district, even though San Diego, as we already talked about, is a Republican town. He ran against Maryott in the past in 2020, and he attacked Maryott on the SALT deduction elimination, which frankly is probably a really strong hit because, I mean, we know, Jack, coming from Illinois, that the voters in high property tax states, in suburban areas, in higher income areas, they like the SALT deduction. And Trump capping that, even though it was the right thing to do by Trump, you can go after your opponent if they're on the other side of that. And he rightly attacked Maryott, or fairly attacked, I should say, not rightly. He underperformed Biden by 2 points, and he tripled Marriott's fundraising in the last election. But I don't think Maryott had any national help though, so hopefully that'll be different this time.
Yeah, I mean, definitely when you run again, that'll boost your numbers because sometimes the voters will think, and this is just like trajectories. It's not an attestament to voters' intelligence or anything, but sometimes voters will see the name again and they'll be like, "Oh, he's the incumbent," and then that's kind of what you see sometimes. But I also wanted to mention how um, about how Levin is saying that it's against the district's values with the power plant when with him opposing the power plant, because I mean, I don't know if you're speaking for their values when they're the ones losing power, and then you're saying stuff like that. It's just dumb. It's dumb strategy, and it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of voters aren't going to like that. I don't.
Yeah, you could really see the ideology blinding him on that.
Totally.
You want to tell us about Brian Maryott?
Yeah, I do. So he's the mayor of San Juan Capistrano. He has a financial services career. Like we said, he ran against Levin in 2020, where he lost. But like we said, hopefully he'll gain some experience from losing. He has the support of GOP electeds, 400 volunteers, and a large veteran coalition. I mean, that's kind of says a lot right there. What does support of people like that mean?
Oh, it's huge in a district like that, especially in counties that have traditionally been pretty GOP strongholds. San Diego County, I don't know how much of the new district has San Diego County. I don't think it's near as much as the previous one, but North County, which is just north of San Diego, has a good GOP contingent, as does Orange County. I mean, Orange County has the skeleton of what was once a very formidable GOP organization. And I believe last time he did fairly well in Orange County. So having that base of volunteers to draw from, it just makes everything so much easier when you're running something as multifaceted as a campaign. And having a large veteran coalition in a district that has Camp Pendleton, and then just south of there, you have all the Navy SEALs training just in, I think, Coronado Beach, right off the coast of San Diego. So, I mean, you have a lot of people you can draw from for that to kind of go against the narrative that Levin is going to push of, oh, see what I did for veterans, see how much I care about you. I mean, you're going to need to work against that narrative, and hopefully that veteran coalition helps him with that.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, my mic wasn't working there for a second. But also along with Maryott, he's going to be talking very strongly about the border. And he's going to be talking about the inhumanity of current policy of unsecured borders. I mean, you're going to see it a lot with these border candidates, like I've said. It's a great point that they bring up too, because it's an issue that's directly affecting the voters in your district. I mean,
and he brings that issue to home too. Like, a lot of people are kind of mealy mouthed about issues like that, but he brings it to the voters' minds. I mean, that district's an hour from Tijuana. You got the giant Mexican flag flying right from you in San Diego. But he mentions little girls taking birth control pills before crossing the border because of the high likelihood of rape. And I mean, that's kind of a graphic thing to have to imagine. I mean, even worse to have to live through, obviously. But from the perspective of framing the issue, when Democrats try to play like they are the compassionate party, examples like that wake voters up to the fact that no, actually, you're not, because you're putting people in the position where they're having to go through this. So, I mean, kudos to Maryott for taking it to the house on that one.
Totally. I mean, you definitely want to do that. You want to hit the hearts of the voters. And that's definitely a good way of doing it with true issues that are affecting people in this area. Nuclear waste is also a big issue in this district. And I know that they did shut down a nuclear power plant. I can't remember how many years ago, but it was leaking. It was leaking radiation into the district. And so that's definitely a big issue in the district.
Yeah. Levin talked a lot about in his videos how they're trying to create something. I think it was Yucca Mountain or something to store all the U.S. nuclear waste in one location, and how that was a big thing. So it's a major issue for the district.
Yes. He does have a tendency, as you'll see with him talking about the negative issues, he has a tendency to be a little too negative in debates. But he does rightly paint Levin as extreme. He has an unorthodox, humane, and wholesome view of student debt. And he's trying to make it look something more like car payments for payers. Which, I mean, it's definitely cool to see candidates bring up new issues like that. I mean, it shows that they can think for themselves and they're not just going to go along with the mainstream. So it's nice to see that. Uh,
Yeah, I fear that the party line on that, from standard Republicans that we're seeing a lot, is may turn off a lot of college educated Republican inclined voters who maybe aren't with us on some issues, but are attitudinally Republican. But the giveaways are appealing to them. And I mean, sure, they took the debt out, but college doesn't need to be as much as it is. I mean, our parents' generation, they were able to work in the summers to pay off their tuition. So, I mean, having a view that's kind of has, again, the voters' view in mind, for Maryott, I think is a good way to frame it, as opposed to the tough luck, deal with it. Um, I I mean, as Pate Phillip said, president of the Illinois Senate, you win voters by addition, not subtraction. So some of the overly harsh views on these things might sound good on Fox News, but winning hearts and minds should be the ultimate goal.
Totally, and it's definitely become even more. It was already a big issue. It's become even more of a big issue as you see headlines like Biden forgives student loans. And so the Republicans definitely are lagging behind on a little bit. And so it's nice to see candidates come up with new solutions for it.
Absolutely.
Should we talk about their finances a little bit, or did you want to talk a little bit more about Marriott?
I guess the only thing I'll say is I think his financial services career could bode really well for him. It's basically a sales career, which it it co- it coheres pretty well with what campaigns are in terms of putting yourself in front of voters. I mean, for them it's potential clients, but putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. So hopefully that bodes pretty well for him. He's a little mealy mouthed on abortion, but I guess it's to be expected in these districts. And you're seeing a lot of Republican candidates taking their issue stance on it off their web pages. Um, Obviously, we have different thoughts on the tactical play with that. There's probably better ways of doing it. You should be out front of it. You don't need to make it your centerpiece, but you shouldn't be caught flat-footed either. Um, the other thing I'll say, he attacked Levin on making TRICARE for everybody. We talked about another candidate doing the same thing, um, which gives coverage to veterans, and he characterized it as giving coverage, the same coverage of those who serve and sacrifice to those who just cross the border. So that was a pretty good hit, I thought. And an interesting point he also brought up is housing in the district, which if you hear Levin talk about, it's like, oh, it's an issue. I don't know how we know how to solve it. I guess it's a shame things are so expensive. Well, Maryott actually kind of breaks it down a little bit and says that 50% of housing costs in the district or in that part of California are because of regulatory costs, which is kind of an astonishing number. I mean, imagine building a house and half of the cost is in permitting, is in environmental nonsense, is in all sorts of crap that doesn't really have anything to do with whether it's putting a roof over your head. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty good candidate. Want to talk about the money?
Yeah, I do. I also think he's a good candidate. And that's definitely a huge issue to hit on is the housing issues and the housing cost issues. That being said, though, so we've got Levin here. He's raised $3.4 million. He's spent almost 2 million of that. And his cash on hand is 2.9 million. Marriott has raised 2.4 million, so not that far behind.
Wow.
I mean, it's still $1 million, but at least it's comparable more so than these other races.
Yeah,
Um,
no, definitely.
yeah, he's spent about 2 million of it as well. Um, and his cash on hand is 500,000.
Okay.
And that's from June 30th. So we'll see those numbers change
He
as more
probably had to
information comes
spend
out.
a lot of it to get through that jungle primary that they got in California.
Yeah.
And hopefully he gets some serious national help because he seems like a really good candidate. He's knowledgeable. I mean, Levin is a more formidable Democrat and definitely a student of the game, but these districts in this area is traditionally Republican, and hopefully he can take them out.
Yeah, and this is definitely a district that we would want to take too, getting back that San Diego area, as it's been in play for the last 5, 6 years now, or cycles, I mean.
Absolutely. So hopefully Maryott can get the job done. Probably be a hard race for him, but we think he can pull it off.
I agree.
Well, thank you again for listening, and hope you enjoyed. And join us again next time. And God bless.